economy because it is basically important, but it doesn't really have a lot to do with what's happening out here because we moved to a different drummer in California, and we're doing much better than the nation, but we got to talk about it. We're going to talk about the Silicon Valley economy. I'm going to talk to you about what I'm calling the disruptive economy that's happening here, which means that you are going to have a great real estate market probably for the next 3 to 5 years, so you're in a good place. We're going to talk about the real estate market, what was, what is, what's going to be, and what I think is going to happen over the next couple of years. So I gave you something here, and if you turn to the first page, I want to go back and talk about the year 2014 for a little while, and the reason for that is because we have to look back at last year in order to understand what's happening this year. So let me talk first about the stock market, because if you remember the stock market last year, it started January absolutely terrible. We had a terrible January, and then the market started to take off in February, and we ended the Dow almost at 18,000. It got there for about 3 minutes one day, and then it basically dropped down, but it was very close. And I had projected 18,000, so I was really mad that it didn't end the year at 18,000. Darn it. I thought maybe I could buy enough stock to get it to 18,000, and then I realized how much that would cost, and I said, oh my God, I'm never going to get there. But it ended the year in a very good place. So, and the reason for that was, if you look at everything that happened around the world, everybody was in love with the American stock market. Everybody was running here safe, secure. Companies were making a lot of money. The dollar was down last year, so therefore anything we brought abroad basically was playing the currency trade, and so everything was wonderful. So the stock market did very well. I think the stock market's going to do just fine again this year, and I think you're going to have a replay of what you had in 2014. Because if you realize that we started January in a terrible place again, February the stock market was up almost 1,000 points in 1 month. It's only the second time it's ever done that. If you look at it now, it's at about 18,001 this morning, which means that we are over 18,000. I think the stock market is going to be tremendous this year, again, because people basically like the American stock market, even though the dollar has gone up almost 30%, which is a little bit concerning because it means when we send things abroad, they're more expensive now. I still think that at the end of the day, the stock market is going to be wonderful. Now, people always ask me, what are you buying in the stock market? Okay, so I'm going to give you basically what I've been buying. Now, remember this, I'm buying it. I'm not telling you to buy it, so if you lose money, don't blame me, okay? One would be Apple, guys. I continue to think that Apple is going to be probably the first trillion-dollar company out there, and let me tell you why. Some statistics on Apple. They have 453 stores now globally around the world. They have sold 100 million iPhones just in the last few years. And you know they have something now, and this is what I mean about disruptive economies. When you have industries that bring new ways of doing things into basically the system, it can, one, disrupt what was, but it also creates great pockets of wealth going forward. So you know the first thing that Apple came out with just recently is something called Apple Pay. Now, Apple Pay is the payment system that I guarantee you're all going to be using. And here's what it does. You take your phone and you go in, and instead of taking out a credit card, so they're going to take on the credit card industry, you bring your phone up to basically the wall where they'll put something, and you put the phone there. So you get in the store, you go, you research, you look, you shop, you buy, and you put the phone there, and you use your thumbprint, and your thumbprint becomes basically your security and the way in, and it basically charges you for whatever you're going to buy, sends you an email, bills you, and everything is done all on the iPhone. Now, what's real interesting about it is it doesn't work on the iPhone 1, 2, 3, and 4. It only works on the iPhone 5 and 6, so everybody has to buy now a 5 and 6 in order to get it to work. So you begin to see what they're doing. They're taking on the credit card business, but they're also going to make you go out and buy probably 50 million more iPhones to replace the ones that it won't work with. The other thing is they're coming out with in April is their watch. You know that. Now, the watch is in 3 different kinds. There's basically the chrome watch, there's the stainless steel watch, and then there's one that's all gold that's $10,000 to $17,000. I have a daughter that's been testing the watch, and I have to tell you, it is an amazing thing. And I know what you all are going to say. Oh, I'm not going to buy one of those. Yeah, you are. You will buy them. Okay, and let me tell you why you will buy them. You're going to buy them because all your clients are going to eventually have one, and you're going to have to basically communicate to your clients on the watch. Because I was at an ice skating rink with my granddaughter the other day, last Sunday, and my daughter, instead of using the iPhone, guess what she was using? The watch to do everything. Because you can text, you can call, you can basically take pictures, you can research, you can basically play, you can basically play games, you can look at movies, you can do everything on the watch. And it's interesting because the demo watch that they have The face is, you know who it is, don't you? It's Mickey Mouse. And after that, you can change it to almost anything you want. And when you press the dial, all the buttons come up that allow you to do all the other things, like listen to things and do things and data and text and send messages and talk to people. So instead of using her iPhone, what do you think she was doing? She was using the wristwatch, which is with you 24/7 all the time, and you don't have to carry all these clunky things, and you're always putting the phone down, and you're always losing where it is, and then you go crazy because you can't find it. This is connected to your wrist, so I guarantee you're going to buy one. The other thing that's on it that's very amazing is something called Research Lab, and Research Lab is the health component that goes on the watch. So if you're running, it'll tell you how fast you're going, how much you've run, slow down, speed up, basically don't eat, you need to eat too much, don't eat that, you've had enough calories for today, and so you know that's what's going to happen. The next thing they're going to come out with now, because I was just down there talking to them, is they're going to come out with a watch for children. And you know every mother in America is going to buy one of those watches because it's also going to have a GPS tracking system in it. Now, the reason why I know that is also disruptive is because if you read the Wall Street Journal 2 days ago, you would have read a big article about the watch companies like Swatch and basically Vacheron Constantin, Patek Philippe, even from the low end to the high end. They're all going to now develop a watch that's going to be able to have technology in it. So what you're beginning to see is it's not a watch anymore. It's a piece of technology appliance that basically you are going to use to do your business. And I guarantee you within a period of time, you're going to buy it. Oh, by the way, it only works with the iPhone 5 and 6 because it has to be connected to it in order for it to work. So I think Apple is a great stock, and I think people should buy it. It's going to be the first trillion-dollar company, and I wouldn't worry about it at all right? I think that basically you should buy Costco. Costco is a great company, and I think that Costco will basically continue to basically go up in value. They just got on the Alibaba site. Alibaba, you know that now people can basically sell the stock, so obviously you saw it come out, it went way up high, and then it sort of went down because that happens when companies go public, and now it's going to start to go up again. So I think Alibaba, if you buy it on the dips, that's a very good company to buy. I don't think you should worry about Mr. Alibaba. He's doing just fine, okay? I have been also buying Target, and I'll tell you why I like Target. I like Target because, you know, they got into trouble a couple of years ago with their credit cards, but they're out of that, and they backed out of Canada where they were having a lot of problems, and they have a new chief executive officer, and I think Target is going to be right on and do just fine. There's another company called Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks is a security company based here in Palo Alto, and I think it is probably going to be one of the top companies out there. I have also been buying a REIT, and I don't really like REITs very much, but this one is called HCP. Those are the initials, and I like it for this reason, because it is a health REIT, but it only owns 3% of hospitals. What it is in the high-end assisted living business. So if you want to put a parent someplace in a high-end living facility that here costs $12,000 to $15,000 a month, they probably own that facility, and they're making a lot of money. I've also been buying Kroger, which is the largest grocery chain, because I think basically you've seen food bills going up, and obviously I think that will do just fine, so I've been buying Kroger. And there is a generic pharmaceutical company called Malaroot, and I think that that is a great company because they make all the generic medicines for basically all the prescription drugs that basically people are getting. The other one that I love is CVS, the pharmacy. I think you guys should look at that. I also have Walgreens, but I like CVS even better. I think they're basically on the leading edge. They're opening up all kinds of health centers in their pharmacies. They're opening up clinics. They're doing all kinds of things. So that's what I can tell you. So I definitely am in the stock market, and I think it's a wonderful place to be aside from the real estate market. So I think the stock market will be fine. Now let me talk a little bit about interest rates, okay? Interest rates, very interesting. 1.6 went to 3%, stayed at 2.8, 2.9 for a period of time. Now basically went back down, 1.6, 1.2. Basically that's where, you know, we are sort of now 1.6, 1.7, 1.9 on this morning. Went up again to 2, then back down. Why? Well, it's pretty simple to understand. A lot of things have happened that make it go up and down like that. You know what happens to interest rates. When there's a demand for interest rate, the price goes up and the rate goes down. So we obviously have seen over the last year, everybody runs here to the 10-year note because it's safe and secure. And for example, if you buy a German 10-year note, you pay them to buy the note. They give you negative interest. So even our interest rate at 1.2, 1.9 looks pretty good against their interest rates. And then you look at what's happening around the world. You have a recession still in Europe. You have Mr. Putin going crazy in Eastern Europe. You have ISIS running all over the world. You have Iran basically beating the tom-toms. You have the Middle East on fire. You have China that's slowing down from 12% to 7% growth. So, of course, everybody wants to get out of there and come over here, and our 10-year note, even at a lousy 1.9%, looks pretty good. So people plunk their money there, and that's why it has gone down. Now, I think the other thing was we have to talk about Mrs. Yellen and what she's going to do and where are interest rates going to go. I think that Mrs. Yellen is probably one of the best Federal Reserve chairpersons I've ever seen because she's very patient, she's very coherent, she talks plainly so you can understand what she's saying, and she's very, very smart. That's the key. Because she's in a very tough position, guys, because listen to where she's at. The federal balance sheet went from $800 billion to $4 trillion. That's what she's sitting with. That's the stuff she's got on her balance sheet. Some of it is good. A lot of it is crap because it came out of our recession. And they just took it so that we could keep this economy going. So now she's had interest rates almost at zero for the last 5 or 6 years. And you can't keep the candy going forever. But the question is, when do you basically start to get rid of that stuff, raise interest rates, keep the economy going, keep everybody happy, and not spook the world? Well, see, she's got two economies going to begin with. First of all, she's got a bunch of industries that are what I call interest rate sensitive. Housing, manufacturing, construction, and retail. Now, see, at Christmas last year, they thought retail was going to take off because gas was down, and they thought everybody would spend. We didn't do that. We had a 3% increase, but they were expecting like 7 or 8. So people are saving their money. They're not necessarily spending it when they get it. So she has to be very careful about those 4 industries because they're still basically just beginning to breathe, all right? They're not out of the woods. Here, you are. Here, real estate is on fire. But when you go around the rest of the nation, it's not. When you look at the numbers today, the average price right now across the nation is $202,000. We were up 1.4% in new home sales this last month. That's not terrific. It was flat the month before, and we still have basically a 5 or 6 month supply of homes to sell. So they're projecting 4.88 million new home sales, basically, or residential sales, this coming year nationally. Remember, we have always been usually over 5, and when we were at the height, it was 7 million, okay? So you see that we're still very kind of in a precarious position. Then you have industries that don't care about interest rates. Technology, they don't care. Energy, they don't care. And healthcare, they could care less because those three have more money than God, so what the hell do they care about interest rates? So she has to be careful, all right? So the first thing is, she's looking at that. The second thing is, okay, what did we do last year? We had a GDP number of 2.2%. That is not a great number, guys, because we had a lousy first quarter and a not-so-good last quarter, and so everybody was projecting we would be at 3% for the first time in 5 years. We didn't make it. We came in at 2.2%, so she has to worry about that. Now, they're telling you that we're doing 290,000 jobs every month. Well, let me ask you this question. If we are really at 5.5% full employment, which that is, how do you get to 2.2%? You'd be growing a lot faster than that. So one of those numbers is wrong, and believe me, it's the unemployment number. It's much higher than that number is. So at the end of the day, she's concerned about GDP, she's concerned about the unemployment number, she's concerned about certain industries, so I don't think she's in the job of just raising interest rates so fast. Now, she has another issue, globally, all right? I just told you that globally, everybody's slowing down and in trouble, and in fact, many countries, if you buy a 10-year note, you have to pay them to buy the note, which means you're not getting any interest, it's negative. If she raises interest rates here too fast, too quickly, what do you think is going to happen to everybody over there? They're going to take their money out of over there and run over here and put it in here, and that movement of capital means that these people will be struggling even more. So I think she did exactly what was right. Everybody was saying she's going to take the word patience out of what she did in the minutes, and that's exactly what she did. She said, well, we have gone beyond the point of being patient, but we're not going to be impatient. So she added it right back in at the end of the sentence. So all she did was move it from the beginning of the sentence to the end and added the word im in front of it. Very smart. And then she said, and made it very clear, I'm not going to raise rates in April. I'll be looking at June. And she said probably, and I think this is probably what she's going to do. She's probably going to do a little tiny rate hike in September, maybe, all right, if things stay the way they are. So you have to assume that. Here's the other thing that she made very clear. When I start to do this, I'm going to do it very, very slowly. So 1 month she may do 0.25%, 1 month she may do nothing. So now think about it. Is there anything to get spooked about? No, there's not, and that's why you saw the stock market take it in its basically glory. And now you're going to see them waffle kind of where we are with no big moves basically over the next month or two because they're perfectly calm. Because just think, if you're at zero and she starts to raise interest rate at 0.25%, do you realize how many years it's going to take you to get to 4 or 5%? It's going to take 4 or 5 years to get there. So now let's go back to mortgage rates and talk about mortgage rates. Where are you? You're at 4%. Okay, fine. So at 4%, you need to slap these people and tell them they should get 80-year loans if they can get them because they're getting what's quote-unquote free money. Okay? Now, let's just do the scenario. You bought a house in 2002. It cost you $600,000. You put basically 25% down and you got a 30-year note. We're not going to talk about crazy loans. Those are gone. Your payment was $4,000 a month. And when you made that payment to the bank, 9% of it paid down the $600,000. That's wealth for you. And all the rest went to the bank. Okay? Now, let's fast forward to today. Same house. Hasn't gone up at all. $600,000. You got the same 30-year note, the same 25% down, but now you're only paying 4.5%. The difference between the two is enormous for you because now your payment is $1,000 less every month, and when you make that payment to the bank, 27% goes to pay down the $600,000, and just the balance goes to the bank. So the fact that interest rates and what are going to be where they are for a longer period of time is very important to real estate, and it's part of the reason that you're creating wealth quickly. So it's not just appreciation at the end. What's so magical about real estate now are a couple of things. One, low interest rates bring you equity fast. That is a very good thing. The second thing is real estate is beginning to work like stocks. And by that I mean you can ladder them. People need to understand it isn't a question of where you want to live, it's a question of getting in. You need to start, get in someplace. So you can't live in Palo Alto, then guess what? Go across the bay, go someplace else, because if you can get in, and you get in at 4%, and it's appreciating the way it is here, you can basically then get a condo, then you can get a house, then you can get another house, then you can maybe keep that house and rent it, and then you can go buy another house. Do you understand what I'm saying? Over a period of 10 years, you've built wealth, not just moved from one house to the other, which is what the baby boomers did because they leveraged everything like hell, and they didn't have the magic of low interest rates. So you need to say to buyers, you have, secondly, an opportunity to build wealth, not just move from one asset to the other. The other thing and the third thing is we are appreciating here, and you know that. And that is going to continue, and I'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so that's Mrs. Yellen. Now what can I say about Mr. Putin except he would like to be the emperor of Russia. And he would like to get Eastern Europe back, and I don't think he can have it. Okay, so I don't know what they're going to do with him, but that brings me to oil, and let me talk about oil. Last year oil was at $107 a barrel, if you remember, in July, and where is it today? It's basically at $45, $46 a barrel. That's a tremendous hit, okay? Now, goods and bads with that. Let's talk about the United States first. We do a lot of fracking, you know that. So the states that have been oil dependent, like North Dakota, South Dakota, and Texas, they're going to have some problems because you know the spending is going to go down. Already $8 billion is what they're projecting it's going to cost us if oil stays at that level, and obviously people will get laid off. Well, we're not oil dependent in California, so it's nice, and what do we care? But I guess we care, but you know, the gas is a lot less, we don't care. Okay, that's it at the end of the day. Now, let's talk about, that's the side that isn't good. Okay, the good side is consumers have more money if they'll spend it, gas is less, thank God, that helps the auto industry, airline industry, etc. So there's a lot of offshoots, good and bad. But the real reason that oil is down is partially because of supply and demand. You do know that. Because the demand around the world, if these economies are all slowing down, obviously is less. But you also have more players at the table now, because who's at the table? Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Canada, the United States, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, you've got Mexico, you've got Venezuela, you've got Brazil. Those are all the big players in the oil industry. And the United States now is a huge exporter, and we never were before. All right. Now, they had a meeting at OPEC about 2 months ago. See, I believe that all these things are sort of pre-planned, and we just get the PR that you read in the paper about why they've done things, and they do things for reasons that they don't really kind of want to tell you. So they have a meeting of OPEC. That's the big oil cartel. And Saudi Arabia is always the head of the oil cartel because they put out 10 million barrels of oil a day, all right, a day. So they all are sitting there, and all the other countries asked Saudi Arabia to reduce the supply they were putting out. Do you know what Saudi Arabia said? No. And they said no because they said, look, we have an economy that's doing just fine, and we're quiet over there, surrounded by everybody going crazy, and we're not mucking our life. Okay, fine. So everybody else leaves. They can't lower the supply because how can you do that? So now everybody's still supplying the same. They asked Saudi Arabia 3 days ago to lower the supply again. Guess what they said again? No. Okay, fine. So now what does that mean? Well, here's what I think is happening. Saudi Arabia doesn't care because when they take oil out of the ground because of our technology that we brought there, it costs them $30 a barrel. Are you understanding what I'm saying? It costs us about $30 to $40 a barrel, so we're doing just fine. But if you're in Venezuela, it costs you about $60 a barrel to take oil out of the ground. If you're in Iran, it costs you $70 a barrel. And if you're in Russia, because of their old technology, it costs them $100 a barrel to take oil out of the ground. So Mr. Putin can take as much oil out of the ground as he wants, but he's losing basically $60 on every barrel of oil that he's trying to send around the world. So I think what's happened, if you can understand the countries I've named, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Russia, those countries, that's where all the hotbeds are, where all these people basically are harboring all these people that want to destroy the world. And so one of the ways that you handle that is you squeeze them economically. And that's the real reason that the price of oil has come down. Now, is it going to stay there for a while? Yes, until they begin to feel the pain. Why do you think Iran is sitting at the table trying to negotiate something with us? Because their economy is in the toilet. Mr. Putin, you notice, has gotten quiet for the moment. Not that he will stay that way, because his economy is in trouble. I think at the end of the year, you'll probably see oil at $60 to $65 a barrel. That's where it probably will be. That's probably the sweet spot where basically some of the countries can survive, but the ones that we don't basically want to survive too well probably won't. So I think that's where you're going to see oil. Now, what else happened last year? Oh, gee, we had this wonderful election on November the 4th. And isn't it nice? Now we have a Republican Congress and we have a Democrat in the White House, and that sure has improved everything, has it not? Yeah, everyone's doing a lot better. They still hate each other. They'll always hate each other. They'll never get along. It's a marriage from hell. That's it. So forget it, guys. Now, the next thing is you're going to start to hear ad nauseum, obviously, about the election that's coming to be President of the United States. Now, that's going to be interesting because I think you all think you know who's running, and God only knows who's running, because at the end of the day, who does know? Who would want to run for President of the United States? Now, remember this. They each spent last time $1 billion running for president. $1 billion. Now, this year, they're going to spend more than that. If somebody gave me $1 billion, I would take it, leave the country, go buy an island, and be queen for life. You don't have to be president for 8 years and go through hell. You could buy an island, right? You could buy a country. So I have no idea why people are doing that. Okay, now that gets us into 2015. Do I think GDP is going to be better? Yes, I do. I think we may get close to 2.8 to 3% on GDP because slowly the economy is getting better. Do I believe the unemployment numbers? No, I do not. All right? I do not think we are at 5.5. I think we are probably close to 8 or 9%, but they're going to give you the numbers they want because they don't count the same way that everybody else should count. 2 and 2 to the government is 86. 2 and 2 to me as an economist is 4. You can divide it any way you want, but it's still 4. But that's what you're going to get, so don't believe that number. Now, the other thing that Mrs. Yellen said, which was very important, was inflation. And you know, they're telling you it's tame because it's 1.7, and it is. That's because energy is down, obviously, and because they don't count food. If you counted that, we're probably over 2%, but they like that 1.7 because she did say in her minutes that until it got to 2%, that was another reason why she didn't want to raise interest rates, because we almost have basically inflation that's gone down, and she wants to jumpstart this economy. So I think nationally we're going to be okay, all right? Now, let me talk for a minute about Silicon Valley. There's the difference. We're moving here at 6 or 7% GDP, all right? And that's going to continue for the next few years out. We are not only having a revolution here, we are having what I call a disruptive economy here, and let me explain what I mean. Let's go back to the year 2000. I get a call from a magazine in New York, all right, and the New York Times, and this woman is going to do an article, all right? And she wants to talk about the bubble again. I love that. The bubble in Silicon Valley, and we're all crazy out here, and the price of homes and overpriced and blah, blah, blah. So I want to take each one of those items one by one. First of all, I said to her, there's no bubble. It's a lot of babble. That's what it is, not bubble, okay? Now let me explain what I mean by that. We did have a bubble in the year 2000. You didn't have companies that could make any money, just a bunch of companies getting money from investors. Nobody knew what to do with it. Nobody liked the internet. You didn't like the internet in the year 2000. You didn't want to sit in front of a computer. In fact, you hated all that stuff, and you absolutely said you were never going to do it. Well, so much for that theory, okay? At the end of the day, it all blew up. Real estate blew up because everybody got a loan, and it was artificially inflated without true value, and like a balloon, it burst. That's what happens. So we went through that. Then we've gone through a period where everybody came back, companies came into existence. They started with the Facebooks and the Googles and the LinkedIns and the Yahoos and etc. And what they had been doing for the last basically 10 years is building their companies, and they found out that the internet was important because it connects people and it changed the world and how we work and play and live. And then they have been doing software and applications, and what they've been doing is bigger, better, more bells and whistles. That's the second phase of an economic revolution. The third phase that we're in now is called the disruptive phase, all right? That's why it's not going to end. See, she tried to say to me, it's over. You're done in Silicon Valley now, and basically, you're going to basically go back the other way. I said no, because we're not at the end of the rainbow here. We're at the third phase of the revolution, which is the disruptive phase. Okay, she said, give me an example. I said, okay, we could start with Apple. Let me give you the next example. How about Netflix? That's another stock you should put down on your bucket list. Netflix is taking on the cable industry and the movie industry, because think about it. Years ago, you used to pay Netflix a few bucks to send you a bunch of movies in the mail so you didn't have to schlep down to the store, right? Now, what Netflix does is they're doing their own content. They're doing their own movies, and you're paying a lot of money to get that, and they're taking on the cable industry, and they're taking on the movie industry, okay? That's number one. Number two is, at the end of the day, let's talk about Uber. Y'all know Uber?
Yeah, we do.
It's a limousine company. No, it's not. They don't own a limousine. They don't want to be in the limousine business. That's a crap business to be in. Limousine companies go out of business every day. All that they are is a connectivity business. They're the middle person that connects a client with the driver of a car. Now let me tell you how beautiful that model is. When Facebook bought WhatsApp, they paid $22 billion, not $20 billion, because by the time the deal closed, their stock was up, okay? And everybody said, how could they do that to a company where there were only 55 people that are employed there? Do you realize what that is per person? Okay, because WhatsApp bought them the international market, because 90% of the 500 million people that go in there every month to use the application live not here, but abroad. So they bought the international market in one day. 99 cents for this stupid application, right? That you send somebody a message and then it gets deleted, 10 minutes later. Perfect. 99 cents. They make 43 cents profit on the 99 cents. Wouldn't you love to be in a business where you could make almost 50% profit? If you're in the real estate business and you can make basically 5-6% profit, 8 at the end of the year, you think you died and went to heaven. Imagine being able to make almost 50% profit on every one that gets sent out. And you know how many get sent out? 50 billion of those a year. Are you listening to me? So that is the sweet idea, is that you have a business where you have no overhead, very little responsibility to have a lot of staff. You don't need a space on every street corner in town, and you can make a lot of money. So that's what they are. They're a connectivity center. So you're a client, you need a ride, right? You're going to call up on your phone from start to finish, Uber, I want a car, I'll get it there in the next 10 minutes, I get in the car, I drive where I want to go, I can pay with my phone, I'm out of there, life is great. The other thing that's beautiful about it is, who are they taking on? The taxi cab industry, of course, because in our country, in the taxi cab industry, you can drive a cab, but you can't own one because you don't have a medallion. You need a medallion, according to the cities, in order to own a cab. And those cost, in a city like San Francisco, $500,000 to $2 million to buy a medallion. So they're passed on to generations. Nobody gives them one. So you can be a driver at 10 bucks an hour, but you'll never be a business and be able to acquire wealth. But if you work for Uber, they don't care. You can be a business under their business, and you can have 15 cars if you want. So now the beauty of that is they're a business making money, you can be an owner of a business that makes money, and everybody's making wealth along the way. They will go public this year. They have now been valued at $42 billion. They are in 260 cities around the world. Okay, I'll give you another one. How about Airbnb? You all heard of Airbnb? And everybody says, well, they're in the hotel business. No, they're not. They're taking on the hotel business. They don't own any hotels. They don't want to own hotels. It's costly to own hotels. What they are, again, is they are a connectivity center because they're connecting somebody who comes someplace that wants to stay someplace, and they're making that connection. Now, let me tell you how wonderful this business is. They basically have been fighting in every city they go in, you know that. And finally they got an okay in San Francisco that they can have, as if you are a host there, if you stay in the house or wherever it is that you're renting out, you can have somebody every single night of the year as long as you pay the hotel tax to the city. If you leave, you can do it 90 nights a year, okay? Now, let me tell you what people are doing. They're connecting, bringing people in. I have friends in the city that have booked all the way through 2015 into 2016, and they're using the money that they made from basically letting people stay in their homes to pay their home mortgages. Are you listening to me? They can make that much money. I know people that are making between $4,000 and $8,000 a month doing Airbnb. Now, they're going to go public this year too. I'll give you another one, Spotify, which is the radio people. You know that? Now look, you get a car, you got a radio, right, in your car. You can turn it on, it's free. But these millennials, they don't like that because they have to listen to the way the radio is sending them the message. Oh, no, no, they would rather pay for it because they want the news when they get up, and then finance, and then health, and then motivational, and then somebody to tell them they're wonderful, and this, that, and whatever. So at the end of the day, they're willing to pay for it. They're taking on the radio industry. So do you begin to see what I'm saying to you? You have all of these industries now that are going to change the way we live and work and play, whether we like it or not. And you know what's going to happen with that? That creates tremendous, tremendous wealth. Now let me tell you another reason why in Silicon Valley we're moving at 6 or 7%. All the companies down here are doing something called land banking. And what is land banking? All the internet companies like Facebook and Google, they're buying up everything in Silicon Valley. And they don't care whether it's in good shape or bad shape because they're renting it to anybody because they're anticipating 3 to 5 years down the line they need it to build for their own people. So you have a Google that just spent almost $400 million buying the Menlo Technology Center, which is a piece of crap, and they don't care because they'll keep it, and then when they need it, they'll tear it down and build something beautiful. Apple's going to build a new space. Facebook's building a new space. So you begin to understand what I'm saying to you. The wealth in this valley, you can't compare to the rest of the world or the rest of the nation, and it's not going to stop. Let me give you some statistics. There are 56 billionaires, if you want to find out where that came from, the Forbes 400, right now in Silicon Valley. They're projecting that by next year that number will be 65. Now let me go by county and tell you how many people are millionaires excluding their house. Not including, but excluding their house. In Santa Clara County, it's 30% of everybody who lives here. In San Mateo County, it's 35%. In San Francisco, it's 40%. Basically, Marin County, it's 45%. In Alameda, Contra Costa County, 18%. So that brings me to the next thing that this woman said to me is, well, that's fine, Carole, but you obviously are in an overpriced area. I was waiting for that one. So I said to her, excuse me, let me define an overpriced real estate market for you. It's when you have a glut of inventory, things go on the market, nobody wants to buy them, they sit on the market for 200 days, they have to get into the discounting business, and even if you discount them, nobody wants them. That's an overpriced market. That's what we had when we had 45% foreclosures, okay? This is not an overpriced market. This is a highly valued market. There's the difference. It's what we call a highly valued market because buyers have the capability to pay, and they're willing to pay, in many cases, a premium for something if they want it. And it's all about location, lifestyle, and zip code. You do understand that. That's what it's all about. So if you are a worker bee, you have to go to the location you can afford. Maybe you want to live in Menlo or Atherton, but you can't afford that. So maybe you're going to have to go to Benicia or Vallejo, or you're going to have to go to Fremont or Livermore or Brentwood or whatever. But there is a place for you here, and I told her that. There's no such thing as there's not a place to find. What's happening is that lower end is so hot, it's hard to find something. I will agree with that. There's very little inventory. Foreclosures are down to 4.5%, so we've lost all of that market, and basically everybody's running in, the investors and everybody else, to try to get in. It's hard to find, but it's a question of highly valued. Now, let's talk about these millennials. The millennials value it the way they want. You do understand that. Let me give you a couple of examples. I'm in an office the other day. It wasn't a Carole office. And this woman said that they had sold something for 1.5 and it fell out. And 2 weeks later, they got 1.7 for the same property, even though the buyers knew that the original amount was 1.5. Now, why could that happen? See, that's not an overpriced market. That's a market where they knew there were multiple offers going in the first time. Those people that didn't get it were out looking again, heard that house fell through, came back to bid on it again, and they needed to go to 1.7 in order to get it. Okay? Where I live, I call it the cemetery. The reason why I call it that is because when you walk around, here's what you see there. I would say 30% are in walkers, 2% are in oxygen tents, and the rest don't know where in the hell they are. It's a great place. Like one flew over the cuckoo's nest. That's what I call it. I mean, we're very happy there, all of us, because none of us know where in the hell we're going. If you don't know where you're going, you don't care where you've been. That's what somebody said to me. What's the good thing about being old? The best thing about being old is when you lose it, you don't care. It's wonderful. And my children now have gotten to the point when I say something that I shouldn't say, they just turn around and say, well, you know, she's a little bit whippy now, so we just have to forgive her. And I think that's a great place to be because I'm not whippy and I can say what I want. So, all right. So, I have a friend that lives next door. She happens to be a real estate agent. And she comes to me and she says, Carole, I've got this terrible problem. There's this beautiful house in Parrot Park, which is a nice area in San Mateo, okay? And she said, it's on the market, and it's listed, she said, for 1.6. And there's 3 offers we know that are coming in, but 15 packets are out with disclosures. And she said, I'm having a hell of a time getting my buyer, which is all cash 10-day close, so he thinks he has a lot of power at the table. You do not have power in this market because you're all cash 10-day close in a desirable area, because 9 out of the 10 people that are bidding are all cash 10-day close, so you're just one of many. So I realize that I should be impressed that you have $1.7 million of cash probably, but we can't be impressed by that because it's not going to win at the table. All right. So I said to her, look, and I'm going to give you a formula. The first thing you have to do is, with your buyers, you have to talk to them very seriously about what is the right market price. What's the market? That house wasn't at market. It was underpriced, all right? The market was showing 1.750. So I said to her, you need to say to him, but he said, but it's listed that way. I don't care. They don't care. That's as good as nothing. It means nothing. Now we're at 1.750. Do you still want to participate in basically bidding on this house? Because if you don't want to go above 1.750, we're not going to get this property. So let's not even try. Well, okay, I'll go 1.750. No. See, there's 3 cash offers and 15 packets out. And of the 15 packets that are out, you've got to assume some are going to come in. So let's assume 3 out of the 15. Now you got 6 people, and 5 of them will be all cash. So you can't come in at 1750 because that's not going to work. So she said to me, okay, what do you think, Carole? I said the next key for sellers is you have to wow them. The word is wow. In other words, if they're getting 5 all-cash offers, you're just going to look like one among many unless yours stands out from the crowd. Now, do you want to play there or not? It's not my fault, okay? You got to play baseball in a baseball field. That's it. If you don't want to do this and you don't want to play by this game, then let's go look someplace else. So she said to me, what do you think? I said, the 1 needs to be a 2. That's what I said. I said, you need to go to 2 million. That's it. I'm telling you. She said, oh my God, how would you get there? How do I define that? I said, it's very simple. You get to market. If there's single bidders, and then you look at location and condition of the property, and if it is single number of bidders, you basically take the market price and you raise it between 4 and 8%. Are you listening to me? Now, if it's double bidders, get to market and then raise it 8 to 12%. Now, in that scenario, guess exactly where that house came in at? $2,050,000. And it sold for $2,050,000. And of course, he didn't go to $2,050,000, and now he's sorry. And the reason why he's sorry now is because of this, and you have to tell them this. I agree with you. Why would it go to $2 million when it was listed for 1.6? Because it can. That's why. That's the simple answer to that question. We don't have to be mathematical geniuses to understand it. I gave you the formula that can help explain how you're going to get there, but that isn't giving the rhyme or reason, because people can. The second thing is now, Mr. Buyer, you lost that house. The wife was really mad at him because they couldn't afford the $2 million. But he was going to get tough, okay? He's going to negotiate. You don't negotiate in a competing market, okay? You just don't do that, all right? And now, all the people that didn't get it are out looking for another house. And now they have a comp that says $2 million. Now you got trouble, sir, because now you're going to be over $2 million. You're at $2 million already. That's the thing. And the way these millennials think is they pay cash, they refinance, they take that money and invest it. And they'll tell you if they can't make in real estate or stocks the difference between the 1.6 and the 2 million in a period of years, they probably don't even deserve to live in a house that expensive. Okay? That's the thinking. So at the end of the day, that's the kind of market we're in, a highly valued market. Now, do we have some issues? Of course we do. We have an affordability issue. It isn't a question of value. It's a question of where you can afford to live. And I'm sorry about that. But I don't see it in the Bill of Rights that everybody gets a $2 million house. I don't know, maybe I missed that one in the 10 that I saw. But at the end of the day, here's what you need to do with sellers. Here's what you need to do with buyers. Okay, Mr. Seller, let's not get greedy, because you know they're going to all try to push appreciation. You don't push appreciation, Mr. Seller. Buyers push appreciation. They need to understand that. So when you're dealing with sellers, the first thing you need to say to them when you walk in is that you're not there to list their house, you're there to sell it. That's a very important concept, guys. I'm not here to list your house, I'm here to sell it, because there's a big difference, because we're seeing listings all over the map. High, low, medium, in between. That's not your job. You can't do that. You're there to sell it. So what becomes important? The profile of the buyer. That's what becomes the key to where you get to in pricing. Whether you're going to price it here, there, or where. Because the profile of the buyer will determine whether it's a competition, a negotiation, whether you're going to have multiple offers, how many cash buyers, is it going to be somebody that needs a loan and therefore they need an appraisal, so it has to be close to where the market is, etc. Now, as a seller, you can be above list, but why would you do that? Why would you ever do that in this kind of a market? If you're in the entry part of the market, they're going to need a loan probably, unless they're an investor, and investors are tough. They work the numbers. So forget it, you're lost. If you need an appraisal from the bank, you're lost if you overprice your listing, because they're not going to give you that kind of money, and you know that. So you're playing a game. You're testing the market that isn't going to work, because you're trying to test something that can't work because you're testing the wrong product at the wrong time. So you need to be realistically priced. If you're at the higher end of the market, millennials don't like things. that everybody else doesn't want. They are a funny group of people, and I'm looking around this room, and there's a lot of you in the 25 to 45 age group. So I'm old enough that I can tell you this. It's all about you. That's exactly what you live, breathe, and eat. It's all about you. Everything you want, where you want it, how you want it, when you want it. I have enough money, I can pay for it. If I like it, I will. If I don't, I won't. That's exactly what it's all about. And that's exactly how they act, and that's exactly how they think. And at the end of the day, they're going to say, I don't want to buy a piece of property that's been sitting on the market for 200 days because nobody else wanted it. I would much rather get into a competition with 10 other people and pay $500,000 more for a house, because then I can go boast to my friends that I was with a Google guy and a Yahoo guy and I was with a Facebook guy, but I blew them out of the water and we got it at Facebook. Am I right or am I wrong? Absolutely the mentality, and they can afford to do it. Think about it. They buy $15,000 bicycles. Why would you buy a $15,000 bicycle? Because they can. Because it's different. Because not everybody on the street can have one. Why will they buy a car and then use a service? Because then they have one in the garage and it's a Telsa, so they can tell everybody they have that. That's how they think. That's what they do. You should get the Wall Street Journal from basically the weekend on Friday, Saturday, I think. They're talking about the $100 million home and how many of them we're building now in the United States, and they're buying them absolutely no problem. Amazing. The other thing is, let's talk about how they think. They think very differently than we've been trained to think. The first thing is, you've all had sales training about relationship building and trust and all of that, and you will get to that eventually. But what's your first point of contact with these people? See, it's the phone she's playing with right there. See? They cannot go through a session without a phone. And that she cannot not pick that up. Okay? That's it. The phone is everything. Even if you meet them in an open house, what do they say to you? They say, text me, send me something. It's all on the phone. Now, how do I know that? Because I have children that are in the millennial ages. And last Mother's Day, we're at the Olympic Club. Now, here's the way it used to work when I had children. This is what I did with them. We were going to a club. It was their father's club. They were not going to embarrass their father. So I lined them up, all dressed up, right, and right before we went in, and I said, now let me put it to you this way. We're going into the club. You will be ladies and gentlemen. You will sit there and eat daintily. You will not open your mouth unless you're spoken to, and you will sit there for as long as your father decides to sit there. And if I have to take any one of you out, you will probably not ever live long enough to come back into this club. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Yes, Mother, we understand. Good. If you're all good, at the end of the session, you may get something nice. Okay. Now, I go there with my two children, the boy and the girl, the wife and the husbands, okay, and 4 grandchildren. First of all, the grandchildren all have iPads, because that's how we amuse these children. God forbid they should have a conversation with an adult, right? My son is a hedge fund guy. He's the richest person in the family. He's done extremely well. He has 3 phones he's working on while we're sitting there. His wife, I call her the air bubble, because she's a 10. A 10 means that she's a trophy wife, beautiful, but she can't think. Okay. She's texting. I mean, her whole life revolves around Kim Kardashian, and so she and I don't have a lot in common to talk about. I'm impressed that she made money by just being famous. I am impressed with that, but I'm not impressed with her personally. Okay. My daughter is talking to India, okay, because she works for Oracle, and she manages people in India as well as here, and she's having a problem. She's on the phone with India. My son-in-law is on the phone to New York because they're having a lawsuit. He's a patent attorney, and they're getting ready for Monday morning for the lawsuit. And I'm sitting there like an idiot at the head of the table, nobody talking to me. So, excuse me, I say, hello, it's Mother's Day. Oh, yeah, Mom, happy Mother's Day. No. I said, here's the deal, guys. 5 minutes. Now, you get a choice. I believe in choices in life, all right? Either you put all the crap down, and we have a family dinner, or I'm getting up and I'm going home because I can go back to the cemetery and there'll be a lot of people I can talk to and it won't matter. So I said, and the other option to that is you decide you don't want to do that. So when I'm dead and the will comes out, when your name's not in it, don't worry about it. So they all put everything down, and we had a wonderful conversation, except it was the most tense afternoon I've ever spent in my life because they just can't do it. They can't do it. It's an impossibility. They're stressed. They just automatically go for those phones. You know that they do. That's their whole life. Pets are very important to these people. Do you know that? You know the newest thing out there now are these pet suites that they're building in houses where they're giving rooms for pets with TVs and bunk beds. I'm not kidding. We spent billions of dollars in pets last year. You know, in Halloween costumes, we spent $30 million just in pets this year. Halloween costumes. That's almost sacrilegious, okay? The other thing is their children. Now, I have to give you two stories so that you'll understand. See, they're perfect. They think they're perfect. They have enough money that they can think they're perfect, and you cannot have imperfect children. I mean, how could you be perfect, have millions of dollars by the time you're 30 and have an imperfect child, right? That's not possible because it doesn't compute, okay? So, of course, we have to spend our lives redoing these children. You do understand that. So I have 2 granddaughters and 2 grandsons, all go to private school. Okay, fine. Now, I have a granddaughter that's in school, and the teacher sends home a note to my daughter and says that she fidgets. You know, she moves too much in class, all right, and it's disruptive. Okay, fine. So my daughter calls me up, and she says, "What would you do, Mother?" I said, "I'd sit the kid down," right? She's 7 years old, and I'd say to her, "Jessica, listen to me. You're at school. This is not playtime at the zoo. This is school. Now, here's the way it's going to work. You would like to have ice skating lessons because you've told me that. If you behave in school and sit there and listen to the teacher and the note comes back that you've improved, we will give you private ice skating lessons and Nana will even buy you skates. You get the picture, Jessica? This is not playtime. This is called school. You got a long way to go because you're going through college. Believe me, that's the routine. There's not an option with that choice. So you better shape it up because you're only in 2nd grade." That's how I would have handled it. How did they handle it? A note comes home that she has to be analyzed by a consultant that they've given the name to. Okay, so there's a referral fee. You know that game. Okay. So my daughter says, "Well, no, we got to go to the consultant." "Why?" I said, "We could solve this problem ourselves." No, Mom. They'll write a bad review on the kid. So we go to this consultant. There's $500 for the consultant. Okay. Now, the consultant spends an hour with her, comes out and says, "Yes, she fidgets." Okay. We already got that message. Okay, fine. Now what? "Well, I really have to go to the classroom to observe her to determine how we should move forward." Are you listening to me? Okay. So she brings in a chair, and this chair was invented and developed by a doctor at Stanford. And you know what it is? A rocking chair. Now, they put her at the back of the room. Now, what do you think a 7-year-old child does in a rocking chair? They rock. So by the end of the day, she was up here because she'd rocked all the way across the classroom. So now, they have decided she needs occupational therapy. Are you listening to me? At $200 a session every week, where she goes to learn how to sit and be still, and she's allowed to chew gum in class because it relieves her anxieties. I would relieve her anxiety in about 5 minutes, okay? So at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to tell you. We go to speech, gym, ballet. I mean, they go to chess class, they go to baseball, basketball. I mean, it's a whole routine. You do understand that. We're all programmed with these children and the pets and how we live and where we live and how we look and what we do. There's a whole group there, and that's how they think, all right? So here's the deal. You have a real estate market that was in the doldrums. Now you had one that last year at the higher end was driving everything. What's the same now and what's not the same? You still have low inventory, okay? And you're going to have low inventory, guys. It's not going to change a lot. Foreclosures are down to 4.5%. Let's think of the reasons why. Okay, you're going to sell my condominium, and where are you going to put me? Where do I go? Now, you're going to say, "But Carole, you can get $500,000 more for your condominium. Isn't that enticing?" Maybe, but I'm a widow, so I only get a $250,000 deduction, and then I have to pay capital gains. We used to pay 15% and 9%. You're now paying almost 25% and 13%. Do you realize what a hit that is? So at the end of the day, if I have a lot of equity because I've been there a long time, I'm going to pay it all to the United States government, which I do not want to do, have to go buy something that's going to cost more than where I moved, probably have to redo it. I'm going to be negative, not positive. So it's a problem. Now, builders are building, but they're 5 years behind, and it's going to take time to catch up. So at the end of the day, you're not going to have a lot of inventory in an area like this. Now, you may go to Fargo, North Dakota and have a lot of inventory, okay? But you're not going to have a lot of inventory here. Condos are going to become the asset of choice, not only here but for builders, because we have to build up, we can't build out, we have no land, and people can afford to get into a condo maybe more than a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. So they'll have to do that. And the condominiums you're going to see are going to be themed. Some for singles with the singles bar and the pool room and the sports room and all of that. Some for families with the playgrounds and all that, and then some for the seniors, etc. So you're going to see that. Real estate now has become a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day job. There's no seasonality in real estate anymore. You know, it used to be the winter was slow and then the spring was the spring bloom. Forget all that crap. That doesn't work anymore. Okay? Your first point of contact, as I said, is the phone, not the person. And maybe you can get to the person if you're good enough on the phone. All right? Another thing that's going to happen is basically the real estate industry itself is beginning to get pushed to be disruptive also. So you're going to have, basically, the big players. That means you're in good shape, right? Because, look at it. You know what they say, and it's really very true. Follow wealthy people and try to imitate what they do. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can follow them and probably end up in a good place. That's how they got wealthy, by doing more things right than wrong. So here you are now, basically, under the caveat of one of the richest men in the world. Now imagine, second richest man in the world. Do you think he got in the real estate business for fun? Of course not. Do you think he bought Intero for fun? I don't think he bought it for fun. I think Gino's having fun down there. But he's having fun. He did it because it's the best investment of a lifetime right now. Because what do you get at the bank? 0.25%? What do you get in gold? It went down. Hey, all of a sudden you're in real estate sitting here going up at 24% a year. I'll take that bet. And he now has an empire in real estate. So you're going to have the big boys. So you're safe. You guys should be thrilled. And Gino's head of Berkshire Hathaway, which means he will always love you because Intero's his baby, and I talk to Gino all the time. I think you're going to have some small boutiques. The middle's going to fall out, guys. They can't compete. They don't have the strength, the money. They don't have the market share. They just don't. Now, the one that's going to try to take you on, you know Zip is gone. Redfin will try to take you on. And there's one called auction.com. Now, let me talk about auction.com because Google just gave them a bunch of money to try to test to see if they can take real estate and bring it online. And this is very interesting. I guess names come up all the time, and why mine may come up, I don't know. But they called me, the people from Google, and said to me, all the people from auction.com were coming in, and would I come down and share with them all my experiences? And of course I said yes, because I always believe in going someplace to talk to people, but I wasn't sharing anything with them, okay? I was going to listen. That's what I was going to do. So they came in and they're from the East Coast, all right, and they're very arrogant, all right? And they're trying to tell me, who's been in this business for years, in this area, how they're going to capture this whole market, okay? And I'm just listening, letting them go. It's a piece of cake. It's easy. We got a lot of bucks. We can do this. We can, you know the Eastern mentality. And at the end of the day, I figured it out. I think they'll do pretty well in the heartland of America. The $202,000 easy, ticky-tacky, one looks like the other kind of environment. It'll be quantity, not quality. But on the coast, you have very, very, very difficult, complex transactions with all kinds of different rules and regulations and everything working whatever. So they were giving me the model, and the model is this. You go to auction.com and you put your property there and they put it up for bid and auction and you don't have to pay a fee. And that's appealing to a seller. You don't have to pay a fee. That $40,000 you would have had to pay here, you don't have to pay. The buyer needs to come in with a 1% agent and then